Constantinople was besieged 24 times, and aside from the Fourth Crusade, which was more of an inside job than a proper siege, it has only been captured once, and that with cannons. On top of that, the city only fell after the empire was completely dismantled by the Ottoman invasions. Constantinople was the most impregnable fortress in the history of man. But why was that? There were thousands of cities and fortresses that had high walls and robust defenses, but none proved as unconquerable as Constantinople. Let's dive into it. Before we get to the video, please subscribe and leave a like. Enjoy. The most obvious and the boring answer to this question is the Theodosian Walls. For those that do not know, the Theodosian Walls were 3 layers of stone walls protected by a moat in front of them. The walls were extremely thick and well designed. In Constantinople's 1,000-year-long history of getting besieged, the walls were never breached, aside from earthquakes and, well, cannons. The design of the walls also made them very hard to take from the outside, but very easy to reclaim from the inside. So even if the outer layers fell, they could be easily taken back, so long as the third layer stood firm. However, this is lacking the full picture. Constantinople was not alone in having impregnable walls. Queyrac de Chevalier, the famous Crusader fortress, had just as impressive walls with multiple layers. The walls of Aleppo were also never breached in its countless sieges. There were hundreds of cities and fortresses that had impressive walls that were taken multiple times by conquerors, but not Constantinople. Why was that? The answer is geography. First of all, a quick look at the map of Constantinople will show you that the city is surrounded by sea on 3 sides. The obvious outcome of this is that an attacker can only attack from one side. Now, here you might say, didn't the Crusaders attack through the Golden Horn, from the sea? Well, yes, but the city wasn't being properly defended in 1205 due to the internal factors of the Byzantine Empire at the time. So I don't think the Fourth Crusade teaches us the right lessons. If the city was properly and eagerly defended, I don't think the Latin Crusaders would be able to do what they did in 1205. So yes, Constantinople could only be attacked from one side, but that still does not tell the whole story. Tyre, for example, was also like this, but it was captured many times. The difference with Constantinople was its strategic location, though good engineering projects also helped. To better understand what I'm saying, let's run some scenarios. Now, there are 2 possible scenarios here. An attack may either come from a Western enemy, like the Bulgarians, or an Eastern one, like the Arabs or Persians. Let's say you're an attacker based in Europe. After seeing the impressive Theodosian Walls, naturally your first instinct would be to starve the city out. The number 1 method of capturing fortified cities throughout the history was starving the defenders out. If you can surround the city and cut it off from supplies, then the defenders would run out of food and water and have to surrender. But not Constantinople. First of all, this city had a well-built cistern system, which solved the freshwater problem. And there was enough space by the city walls to allow for local food production, even under siege. But this small food production would not be enough for the entire population at the garrison, so the rest of the supplies would have to be shipped in. Now that you blocked the land roads to the city, you need to block the sea as well. This is especially true because Constantinople is only separated by a small body of water from Anatolia, where you can't go, but the Byzantines can easily bring supplies from. Being a smart general, you decide that you need a naval blockade on the city. But it isn't simple. See, the only way to get your ships to Constantinople is through the Sea of Marmara, which is a death trap. First, you have to cross the Dardanelles Strait, where you can easily be ambushed. And once you're in, you are completely exposed to attacks and harassment from the Byzantine navy. There are no safe ports on European coast of the Marmara Sea. Meanwhile, the Byzantine navy, operating from the secure ports in Constantinople and Nicomedia, can attack you when they want and where they want. Combined with the massive threat of Greek fire, it's extremely likely that your navy will eventually get ambushed and destroyed. Now, you have no way to force the city to surrender, and the Byzantines can bring in supplies and even whole armies from Anatolia as they like. Your only path is sending your men to the meat grinder at the Theodosian Walls, and you aren't winning that fight. Let's play the other scenario now, and assume you're attacking from the east, like the Persians or the Arabs did. Well, right off the bat, you now have to transport your entire army across the strait. Now you can't risk getting your landing intercepted by crossing the Bosphorus so close to the city, so you will go through the Dardanelles. Now you have a massive army across the sea that needs to be constantly supplied, which is very hard with medieval logistics. This means that unless you have an unrealistically large navy, you will need your ships doing supply runs, and your blockade will not be as effective as you'd like. One advantage of an Asiatic attack though is that you can target the Byzantine ports like Nicomedia and limit the number of bases the Byzantines can use against you. Though keep in mind that Nicomedia was also extremely well defended, and it would be a major hassle to take it. Now you block the land roads and you control the Anatolian shore. This means that the Byzantines would have to ship supplies from much further away, which makes their supply situation harder. Things may be looking good, but it isn't over yet. See, by transporting your army to Europe and then besieging Constantinople, you actually put yourself in an encirclement. Byzantines still control the Balkans beyond your landing point. As you sit in front of the walls, they are gathering an army in the Balkans. If you sit where you are, you will end up getting attacked from both sides. But you also can't go west to meet them, because then you will be cut off by the garrison in Constantinople from your supplies. You are now stuck and will probably lose your entire army like the Arabs did in 718 AD. This is how Constantinople held off against all those sieges, through a combination of ingenious engineering and its lucky geographic location. The fact that it was so well connected to both Europe and Anatolia, but separated from both, made the city impregnable. It would take the Ottomans to occupy both Europe and Anatolia to bring the city to its heels at the end, and this was impossible until 13th century. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked it. Please subscribe and leave a like, and I will see you in the next one.